Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannon's Insurance, where you can be a member of the Shannons Club. Pace Farm, the enjoyable egg. Hare and Forbes Machinery House. And Gun Lake Quarries.
Welcome back to Bathurst, New South Wales. You know, searching through the automotive treasure chest is always exciting because we don't know what we're going to find. Well, check this stuff out as I bring you another Classic Restos on the road.
There's just something about Bathurst. Yep, to us it's probably a lot to do with Mount Panorama, and that in itself is unique because there aren't too many iconic race circuits of world standard that you can just drive around. Mount Panorama is a landmark we have grown up with, and Bathurst is the oldest inland settlement in Australia with a population nearing 37,000 people. Bathurst is the gold country, marking the first gold discovery and gold rush in Australia. Today, education, tourism and manufacturing drive the economy. Bathurst has a historic city centre, and with ornate buildings remaining from the gold rush period of the mid to late 19th century. At just under a 3-hour drive west of Sydney, geographically placed, it's ideal for a weekend getaway. There is just so much lovely stuff to see and do. Come to Bathurst. You'll be glad that you did.
On last week's Bathurst episode, we saw a glimpse of a beautiful XR-GT Falcon at the National Motor Racing Museum. Well, that car was 1967. 1968 was a big year for the Falcon. It was the introductory year of the 302 Windsor V8, saying goodbye to the trusty 289. Barn finds, Bathurst, kind of give you goosebumps just thinking about it. Well, here is one XT-GT that was pulled from a shed, and to tell us more, here's Dave.
I've been chasing one of these cars for, I reckon, 30 odd years. How I got to have this affinity with this particular car was that my late uncle had one of these cars when I was growing up, and I've always lived in Bathurst and Mount Panorama. I've spent half my life up there. So after he passed, I've spent years and years and years trying to find this car. Anyway, one day I got onto this guy who had this car, and his father owned it, and they had it in Tamworth, and he was in Singleton, and I said, oh, I'm really interested, and I went up there, and he had it in a shed, and it was out the front of the house. We pulled it out of there, and I just fell in love with it straight away. And my son, who's a spray painter panel beater, he said to me later on, Dad, I knew you were going to buy this as soon as you've seen it. And I'd been looking for so long, but I just love it. It's 100% original. I want to leave it as it is on the outside, and we're just going to do the inside up so all the trim's nice and the seats are comfy and the springs are good, and we can take it out for the weekend drive on club plates. So I love it. With the XT, my uncle, he sort of half raised me, and I was about 10 years of age when I fell in love with these things. He had one, and we used to go up around the mount. He'd take me to Sydney, and I just fell in love with these GTs. I've sort of been a Ford man, but just a muscle man really. I just love them all. Anyway, I'd been looking and looking, and it had to be this particular colour with the red stripe in the manual, in the black interior, because this car is exactly the same as the one he had, and I'm just so stoked to have it. So my uncle Alan that helped raise me, if he knew that I had this car here today, like, he'd be so stoked, because it was his pride and joy. Now, he was a motor mechanic, and he was an avid Dick Johnson and Mount Panorama enthusiast. Only lived just down the road from Mount Panorama, and you know, he would just love it. I actually took his wife down when she come and visited one time just after I got the car, because I've had the car for probably 10 years now. I said to her, look, come down the shed, I want to show you something. So I took her down there, opened the door up, and the tears flowed. It was amazing. Living in Bathurst is and Mount Panorama, I could never afford really up until the last few years to be able to have this type of car and really enjoy it. We were a battling family, and we only lived 2 or 3 blocks from the bottom of Mount Panorama in the housing commission area. So when I was a young kid, I'd be up there selling programs at Mount Panorama, and I remember one of my first memories was Alan Moffat having the truck up there with all these GT Falcons. There was a heap of them on this thing, all done the same number, and that's one of my earliest memories. But we were there every year and selling programs to all the people on the hill. It's a bit different these days, but they were the days. They were. Mount Panorama, like the Bathurst races, as time went on, and I got a bit older, I was living in town, right in the centre of town, and of a night time, everybody would be down in town and the town would be buzzing. And I remember in Russell Street, I lived in this double-storey house. It was the only house in the whole block, and next door was a place called Gurdon Motors, and the Triumph team used to go there. And they'd have all these Triumphs, all the same. There must have been half a dozen, and they'd be in there pulling the motors out and gearboxes and doing all the stuff, because a lot of the teams didn't used to stay at the track. So I lived next door, and here I was 10 or 11 years of age, and I'd be in there with these guys, and they were happy to let me do stuff and look at what they were doing, and I'd sit there all night, especially if one had been pranged and they were trying to rebuild it. I'd have a great time. It was fantastic. With this GT, like even though we dragged it out of the shed and it has been drivable, I haven't really done anything to it yet. We've just started doing the inside, the seats and the dash and things like that. So I can't take you for a drive, Fletch, but I'd love to. But when you come back, come and see me, because I love this thing and it'll be with me till the day I'm gone. I just love it. With the GT and all the muscle cars, I really love how people keep things genuine and standard, you know. That's what it's all about to me, just keeping the dream alive so people can come and see what these things are really look like in their day. You know, I just love it.
When I was a kid, I loved cars.
I've been a motoring enthusiast all my life.
My life is hot rods, designing them, building them and racing.
Hand-built with a stainless steel roof.
It won the Monte Carlo Rally 4 times.
Like Dad, I've always been a Ford man.
In '71, this was the fastest 4-door car in the world.
Insurance? Shannons, of course.
Hare and Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare and Forbes has the range. Yes, welcome back. Next location on today's show, a short drive around about 14,500 kilometres north of Bathurst. Again, to an unassuming location where sheep rule the real estate and just a shed sits in the paddock.
How did it all start? Probably spent 4 years working down in Sydney and that sort of thing, and met my wife and come back up here, moved to Bathurst, got married. Basically spent 17 years in town in a little single car garage, wall to wall bits and pieces, little 3-bedroom house with 3 kids, next to no room. First car I got, or first decent car, was my little Model A bucket. Had it pulled apart, it's all spread out in a single car garage, and thought, no, I've got to get a bit more space. Went from that to building the current car, and it spent some time up at Mum's, and it was getting all a bit too much, backwards and forwards and that sort of thing. Then I think we bit the bullet, bought out of town on a few acres. And then, yep, I think my wife twisted my arm behind my back, didn't take too much effort, and we ended up with this bit of a little man cave. And then went from there, painted the floor in the middle of winter, as you do. From there, started to dump all the bits and pieces in here. Bit of a TV, ping pong table. Yeah, I believe Fletcher, when he turned up, he apparently grabbed the wrong shed when he initially started his filming, but this is it here. Just a little bit bigger. I was told when originally planned on the shed, whatever you want, double it and then go a little bit more. So that's what we've ended up with. And she works out, I think it's about 9 metres deep, 4 bays of 4 metres, so about 16 metres long, and an awning out the front. Yeah, we've basically lined it with bubble wrap when they built it, or I'm not even sure what they call the stuff, and now we're gradually putting up bats and lining it with ply. The young fella, yeah, he was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which basically it's a gradual wasting away of muscles and whatnot over time. But yeah, the shed, it worked out to be a good getaway for me, for the family. Can come down here, spend a bit of time with the other 2 kids as well, like just spent the last few months and whatnot helping the eldest one complete his Year 12 project, which was a little model, little 32 fiberglass rod. And the next project I'm going to drag my daughter down. Probably she's not keen on it, but we're going to get out a bit of do a bit of woodworking and that sort of thing. Other times where we just come down and order a couple of pizzas and come down and watch a couple of TVs and try and fire up the gas burner, try and take the chill off the air a bit. But yeah, no, it's good having the shed here. It's, yeah, you can just sort of throw everything away and get away from reality for a while.
To add to the therapy of your man cave, you have this beautiful hot rod, a 1928. Now, where do we start here? Now, this car, we've got a photo over there of how the car looked. Now, my first question to you, Chris, when you bought the car, did you know that you were going to hot rod it, or were you going to keep it standard?
No, definitely going to hot rod it. But yeah, we won't go too far there. Might get myself into trouble.
Well, it just goes to show there's no limit to one's imagination, and it's personal choice with your car, isn't it? It just depends on how far you want to go. All I can say is if you're going to do something, make sure you do it right, and you have done that here. It looks beautiful. Not quite finished yet. What's left to do?
Still got to sort out door handles and a way to get into the back seat, and then I think we're right to go cruising then.
Now, Chris, in terms of the history of the vehicle, what can you tell us there?
I believe it come from Dubbo at one stage. I did find some bolts that were engraved that had Dubbo in 1946, I think, written on it on the headlight bar. And I actually purchased it from a fella over in Parkes back in 2006. And then it was pretty well sitting around. It was still a runner then. So I used to take the kids up to mum's and give it a flog around the paddock when it still had the old four banger in it. That was up until about 2010, 2011. Yep. Then pretty well bit the bullet after stockpiling for a few years and sent the chassis away to get tarted up in Tamworth, and then shipped it off down to Wollongong to get a bit of work done.
This all adds to the interesting side of what is in the regional areas of this country, or any country for that matter. What's in the countryside? The amount of vehicles that were sold, the ones that are still in barns, that are in sheds, the ones that still haven't been discovered yet. It's just something that we're always thinking of. Now, this car, apparently there's a bit of Harbour Bridge history. Is that a bit of an urban myth here, Chris? What's the story there?
I'll believe it when I see something solid and some concrete evidence, but yeah, I've been told it was one of the first over the Harbour Bridge. But
I think it's amazing. Okay, now run us through engine and driveline. What have you done here, Chris?
Engine, she's got a 289 Ford Windsor.
Well, you won't bust that.
No, I'll give it a crack, but hopefully not. Then C4 Auto and a 9-inch bringing up the rear.
Yeah. Typical Ford combo.
Yeah, I'm a Ford boy. It broke my heart to put a Gemini brake booster and Holden steering box in it.
A bit of sacrilege. We don't have to tell anyone that, Chris.
Okay.
We'll just keep it between us and you at home. When you bought the car, I can't get the original picture out of my mind. That was a beautiful looking car. Are there any original parts still left on this?
I think it's still pretty well original steelwork on the outside. The only things that I changed was had the roof steeled out and welded up a couple of seams on the back and added a little fiberglass panel between the back guards. But apart from that, and got rid of the rust as well.
That's a good thing.
It wasn't much rust, actually.
How do you feel when you're driving it?
Well, I haven't had a good thing out on the road yet. I've only taken a bend over on to get the pinstriping done and that sort of stuff, but that's about it.
Pretty conservative sort of a fella, aren't you?
Yep.
Now, in terms of features of the car, Chris, what have you incorporated? Any bit of late model stuff?
Oh, we've got a few mod cons. We've got air conditioning in there, stereo. It's about as good as it gets, I think.
What inspired you to go the black and the flames?
I don't know, just had to pick the right colour because I wasn't going to chop it. I didn't want to chop it because of the condition it was in when I got it. I didn't want to be seen as a butcher or too much of a butcher. And then, had to break the black up and went with some flames.
It goes back to when we were kids. When you look at typical hot rods back in 50s and 60s, the flames were probably the first of the dramatic graphic that went onto a hot rod.
Before my time.
Mine too. I'm just talking about picture books that I've seen.
Oh, true that. Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you've gone that way and you've done it very well. Wheels, which way'd you go there?
Halibrands. Yeah, I think I got lucky actually. Originally I wanted to put torque thrust on them and couldn't get hold of a set of them and got stuck with Halibrands, and I think I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Could have left the original ones on.
Yeah, could have gone with a razor blades, but...
Imagine that with your 289 going into a corner. That'd be interesting, Chris, wouldn't it?
Yeah, she'd roll a bit.
Okay, now interior, did you give it to a trimmer or did you take that on yourself?
Haven't gone that far yet. I've just actually got lucky, got a mate at work who's got a full-on CNC machine, so gave him a couple of sheets of masonite and he's chucked them on the CNC. We've played around with a couple of patterns, so we're ready to go when I get the upholstery sorted out.
Oh, that's good. So you got lucky, plus you did your interior. Good on you.
Yeah. Well, rough, but yeah, she'll do the trick.
Chris, I want to thank you very much, mate, for allowing us to your property and this very unassuming location and this beautiful man cave down the back. It's a credit to you, and I hope that you and the family from this point really enjoy what you've got here. And like we alluded to earlier, that it just keeps on getting better for you in here. And keep it the zone, eh?
No worries, Fletch. Thanks for that. Thanks for squeezing us in.
That's all right.
Awesome.
Cheers, Chris.
No worries. Thanks.
My life is hot rods, designing them, building them, and racing them. If you're into rods or customs, you'll know what I mean. It's all about passion, purity, and soul.
Customs and hot rods like the SoCal Roadster is what we do.
And insurance for cars like ours is what Shannons do.
Rods, customs, and even your daily drive. Call Shannons on 134646.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
Like us.
Have a classic? Have it insured with Shannons. Why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646. And the Shannons Club awaits you. It's one of Australia's most comprehensive automotive online hubs. For more information, visit shannons.com.au. Bathurst, what an incredible place to be. It's an interesting race and it always has been. Kind of keeps you on the edge of your chair for the entire day. And 1974 was one of the wettest race days in Bathurst history. It saw John Goss and Kevin Bartlett take victory in a GT Falcon. And as always, the pressure was on from the General, as the L34s were no slouches either. Now today, I don't have an L34 to show you, but we have come up with a very nice SLR 5000.
Good morning, Dale. How are you?
Good, thanks, Fletch.
Thanks for coming along.
Cheers. No worries.
Mate, you live here in Bathurst, Mount Panorama. What does this place mean to you?
Oh, the track's awesome, but the weather's not.
Look, you know, it's a bit of a trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, now, this 1974 SLR 5000 behind us. History, where do we go with this car?
It is a local Bathurst car. It was bought here and it's been handed around through a few different families through the years, and it's still here now.
It's nice that it's stayed in the town since new.
Yeah, it's great.
We look at these LH Toranas. They ran from 74 through to 1976. They certainly held their own. They were a great car, weren't they?
Yeah, very light and powerful.
Especially the note that you've got coming out of this. Now, I know that mufflers and exhausts are your business, and obviously you've done a great job here. Run us through some of the specs that you've got. I must admit, I do get a bit of a chuckle out of the 4.2 badge. I mean, as soon as this car turned up, I knew it didn't have a 4.2 on it. But anyway, run us through that, Dale.
It's got a Pavtec engine, which is from out of Melbourne. It's a 355 stroker, and it's beefed up fairly well.
Driveline, what have you done there?
It's got a Super T10 box in there and a 9-inch diff in it.
Is it a 4-speed, 5-speed?
4-speed, yeah.
So you've kept the old school there, Dale?
Yeah.
What sort of ratio are you running in the diff?
3 5s, mate. Yeah.
She'd be good off the line.
Yeah, she does take off.
Okay, now body-wise with the car, how was it when you got it? What have you done to it?
I haven't really touched the paintwork. It's pretty much self-explanatory. That's how it was, yeah.
I like the interior, Dale, the original houndstooth going on there.
Yeah, it's very original.
Is this your only car?
Nah, got a few other bits and pieces floating around.
Holden bloke, no doubt.
There's Fords there as well, mate.
There you go. See, this is good. This is good. I think the whole classic car fraternity these days, just that cross-section right across the board is just very cool. Cars coming the other way, doesn't matter what make or model, we'll give each other a wave. It's just it's a cool time to be in when it comes to that.
Yeah, and they're only going up in value and harder to get now, so...
One thing I like to make comment too, Dale, I've always liked the build quality of these Toranas. I think they're good. When you shut the doors, you can feel the quality there. They're just like a little Kingswood.
Yeah, you do know when it's shut and when it's not.
When you drive the car around Mount Panorama, do you ever have to pinch yourself actually what you're actually doing? Meaning that Mount Panorama, this is a famous location. This is iconic to motoring enthusiasts around the world. It's about 3 hours away from where I live, but mate, it's right in your backyard.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Our little friends do like to hang around here a bit, and I have received some tickets, so so yeah, you got to be careful.
A very respectable 60 kilometres an hour right around this track. Can you believe that? Yeah. And if you're watching in the United States, it's around 30 miles an hour. So do that in first gear.
Correct.
So driving the Torana around Mount Panorama, how does it make you feel, Dale?
It's pretty awesome to be able to do it. You've done it for a lot of years, so it's sort of natural to you compared to somebody else that's never even been here. Would be different, yeah.
Do you still get a thrill every time you sit and watch the race?
Yeah, it is a bit of excitement, and you don't have much choice when you're in town here. It's all you can hear for sort of that 5-6 days that they're here.
Yeah. Like a ball game in St. Louis of a night. You know, they score a home run and they roar through the city. Wow.
You're spot on.
All right, Dale, I want to thank you very much for coming out here and being a part of this episode of Classic Restos here in Bathurst. You've left your business to come and do this. I do appreciate it. And, mate, it's a nice example of the car. It's just good to see them like this. Thank you very much, Dale.
Thanks, Fletch.
You're welcome. Cheers, mate. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this week's episode of Classic Restos, filmed in Bathurst, New South Wales as a part 2. On next week's show, I'm taking you to Orange. This show featured Dave and his barn-find XT GT Falcon, then Chris with his 28 Hot Rod, and of course Dale with his 1974 LH Torana. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next week, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching.
You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannon's Insurance, where you can be a member of the Shannons Club, Pace Farm the Enjoyable Egg, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Gun Lake Quarries.